Over the past few weeks, mukhang maraming vaccines ay pumapasok sa final trial stages. At kung paniniwalaan natin ang Russia and President Vladimir Putin, mukhang may safe vaccines na tayo. Well, President Rodrigo Duterte of the Philippines seems to back up that claim. And before the end of the year, ang hope ni Pangulong Duterte is that his friends, Russia and China, will provide us the vaccines. Pero alam natin, pagdating sa vaccines, no one is safe unless everyone is safe. For any vaccines to be effective and for us to defeat this pandemic, dapat a significant portion of the world population, between 80 to 90% or even more perhaps, ay kailangan na magkaroon ng access to vaccines. So bakit pinag-usapan natin ng Russia or China or specific countries in order to get the vaccines? In fact, base sa Global Vaccine Action Plan or GVAP, up to 194 member states of the World Health Assembly back in May 2012 ay nag-agree to creating an equitable framework for distribution of vaccines. So ang idea dyan is that you have to ensure equitable supply of vaccines on the global stage. And in fact, this has not been only supported by the World Health Organization, pero maraming ibang international organization ay sumusuporta dito. Kasama dyan are UNICEF, Gavi Alliance, Bill and Melinda Gates Foundation, and the United States National Institute of Allergies and Infectious Diseases. Kaya dapat ang focus dito is global cooperation and not so-called vaccine nationalism. As leading public health experts Thomas Bulicki of the Council on Foreign Relations and Chad Bown of the Peterson Institute for International Economics argue, vaccine nationalism is not just morally and ethically reprehensible, it is contrary to every country's economic, strategic, and health interest. If rich, powerful countries choose that path, there will be no winners. Ultimately, every country will be a loser. Ayon sa mga experts, my country first mentality is very problematic. Unang-una, pagdating sa production of vaccines, you have to source the basic ingredients and expertise and technologies from all across the world. So for instance, some basic ingredients for vaccines should come from places like Chile or Sweden, even though those two countries are not going to develop the final vaccines. So because you have an integrated supply chain, you need an integrated cooperative approach to create vaccines. But some leaders, like President Rodrigo Duterte, seem to think a little bit differently outside the global cooperative framework. Para sa kanya, it's more about either we develop it ourselves or we get it from his friends. Kung maalala nyo, 4 months ago, President Duterte actually talked about a bounty of around 50 million pesos to Filipino scientists to develop the vaccines. So first, ang gusto talaga ni Pangulong Duterte is tayo mismo yung mag-develop niyan. But over time, mukhang walang masyadong follow-through on that issue. After all, Filipino scientists also developed rapid test kits which were approved by the World Health Organization. So may world standard scientists tayo. Ayon sa gobyerno, we have actually allocated 2.5 billion pesos for the purchases of vaccines. Now, mukhang malaking amount na yan, but it's not much when you compare it to the hemorrhaging of our economy, with more than 16% contraction in Q2 GDP this year. And of course, nag-utang ang Duterte administration from World Bank and Asian Development Bank, among others, for us to cope with this crisis. So dapat may pera tayo and funds for this. But let's not forget, countries like Russia and China actually benefit if they have customers like the Philippines, and if the Philippines is willing to be actually a kind of a trial place for the vaccine from Russia, which many experts are not sure about its safety and effectiveness, then we're actually also doing a favor to this country. And President Duterte has always said that China is our friend, so perhaps this should not be pera-pera lang. Now, hindi natin alam kung seryoso si Pangulong Duterte dun sa kanyang bounty of 50 million pesos for development of vaccines by our own national scientists. But what's very clear is that some of our neighbors are already moving in that direction. Kasama dyan is Indonesia, a country that is more or less at the same level of development as the Philippines. Ito yung sinabi ni President Joko Widodo in a recent national address. We have been developing our own vaccine for the past 3 months, specifically from the COVID-19 virus strain spread in Indonesia. Hopefully, the vaccine will be ready soon, and it is expected to be completed by mid-2021. So, ang idea dito is that you develop your own vaccines, hindi ka umaasa sa ibang bansa, and you develop your own healthcare institutions, and you develop vaccines that are really meant or tweaked dun sa specific strain na virus na meron ka sa bansa mo. And the United States naman, under the Operation Warp Speed, is developing multiple vaccines and producing millions of them as early as now. And once matapos yung mga studies at ma-prove kung anong vaccines ay effective, then they're gonna release it. So some are wondering whether it makes sense for President Duterte to rush to get any kind of vaccines from places like Russia or China without making sure na effective sila. As Dr. Seth Berkley, the chief executive of the Gavi the International Vaccine Alliance, said vaccine candidates have a normal success rate of around 7% preclinical, maybe 15 to 20% clinical, so the vast majority will fail. But by having a large portfolio, this will move us forward. So the idea is that huwag ka lang umasa sa Russia or China, especially if there are safety concerns, or in the case of China, we already have other issues of disputes, so you want to make sure that you're not gonna get the vaccines at the expense of our, let's say, interest in the West Philippine Sea. And at the same time, look at other sources of vaccines that are safer. So perhaps it's time for President Duterte to consider also other vaccine options, more established, more credible options, and not only from Russia and China. Maybe that could mean us waiting a little bit and President Duterte getting help from Western countries, but better to be safe than sorry. This is not a time to be reckless and to rush things. Ako po si Richard Hidarian. Stand with us, stand for truth.